Hey guys, I wanted to talk about energy maxing for going out, right? I think it's essential because if you go out and you simply don't, like, there are days where you will not feel like it. And what that means is, like, you're tired, potentially depressed, like, your neurochemistry just isn't there, and you just can't muster a smile, you're tired, you're in a bad mood, you're literally like sad and angry, and like your actual neurochemistry physiology is going to be preventing you from like having any kind of propensity to be a social and energetic epicenter of the night. And it's just going to make things 10 times more difficult. Now, that being said, I don't want to use like my state or my energy as a crutch. You should still take action regardless of how you feel, but the issue is that it just makes things an uphill battle when they could be more of just a natural outgrowth of your mood, right? If you want to be like a fun, positive, energetic life of the party, how much easier is it going to be to do that if you actually feel just excited and like having fun versus like you were traveling for the entire day and you're on 2 hours of sleep and you've been doing like a bunch of zins or like something like that, and you're just freaking, I can barely like stand up right now, like I'm in like a just like a really tired bad mood. It's going to be so much more difficult. So I have 6 tips here to energy max, okay, to make sure that when you do go out, you're in a proper state. Like similarly, for example, working out, pre-workout, why is it so big, why is it so important, and pretty much an essential in like most advanced lifters routines is because they know that to have the best physiological performance when they go, and to actually, it literally gives you motivation, it gives you energy, it gives raises your nervous system to the level of being able to exert yourself well, and you do exert yourself well because your physiological state matches what you need to do. So let's go into some tips here. First of all, napping. You need to be well rested. I believe that your emotions and your mood and your neurochemistry is very much tied to your sleep, okay? Because your brain literally charges its neurochemicals when you're sleeping. So it's like having a phone battery on 1%. If you're on 1%, you have nothing left in the tank. If you go and take a nap for like an hour or two, like later in the day, in the early afternoon, like 4 to 6 p.m. or something like that, and just really charge back up your neurochemicals, you're going to have the baseline level of neurochemistry, mood, excitement, and lack of fatigue that you'll need to perform. So that's first and foremost. The second one is working out. I think that like a nice medium intensity workout is great just to kind of get the blood flowing, get your body and your central nervous system kind of like at least engaged, to where if you've been doing nothing, just chilling, doing nothing, like your central nervous system is going to be just so chill. Whereas if you're like exerting yourself a little bit, your body's going to, your central nervous system is just going to be activated and ready to go and ready to engage. So I would recommend like working out that day. So if we're going out on a Saturday, right, you would probably want to work out like maybe in the morning, 11 a.m., noon, something like that, right? Have a good workout, have some pre-workout, have a good, nice kick-ass workout. Then maybe once that early afternoon kind of slump hits around like 4 to 5 p.m. or something like that, take a nap for an hour and a half or like 2 hours. Or even a 20-minute nap. If you're already fairly well rested, just set a timer on your phone for 20 minutes or set a timer on your phone for an hour or an hour and a half, depending on how much sleep you need and how long you typically tend to nap. But do that. Now we've gotten the workout and the nap out of the way. As we're getting ready for the night, if you are fairly sensitive to caffeine, then this will be kind of a nuanced tip. But for guys that if you can have an energy drink, 200 milligrams of caffeine, like, around like 7 to 8 or something like that, I think that would be honestly a good bet, because you will just need to be that much more than the average populace there. So I do think like maxing with a little bit of caffeine is helpful. Now, I don't love the idea of using chemicals and external things to influence your state, because it will become a crutch. Like imagine next weekend, now you have to go out, are you going to need to have that energy drink again? You might use this tip cautiously, and it'd be great to just, if you can build a great state and great energy just naturally off of some of these other things we're about to say, and the last two, napping, like exercise, sleep, diet, stuff like that, that's great and that's ideal. So, but keep that in mind. I've used caffeine. It works. The only downfall or con with caffeine is that it can create an anxious state. So you may feel like that, constant activation of anxiety in your gut and your adrenals, which can actually create a little bit more approach friction, because now you're like on edge, you're kind of tense if you're like hyped up on caffeine. So that one is there's a balance point there. Now I do think that let's get into the next one here. This kind of bleeds into the next one, which is like motion, constant motion, momentum, and leadership. So if you are kind of nervous, or if you are like at like 70% state or something like that, getting into momentum or social momentum can bring you all the way to where you want to be. Sometimes you just need to take action to get the momentum and get that cruise point that you need. And I think that's like really one of the best actual tips for energy, is like sometimes if you just take action regardless of how you feel, or if you're at a 6 out of 10 or whatever, that momentum, you'll get like kind of like an awkward low energy first interaction, cool, whatever, on to the next, and then you go into the next one and now it's a little bit more smooth and maybe you're just more in a flow state, right? And so momentum is huge, taking action is huge. You just need to take action regardless, and a lot of times that means getting through like 1 to 3 bad sets, right? And then I also mentioned leadership there, because you have to take initiative, you have to be, leading the interaction, leading the conversation, maybe taking it, escalating it around the venue. So keep that in mind as well, and the more you take initiative and take leadership and make decisions, the more your brain will just be activated and engaged, and you'll be in the right state, in the right action-taking mood, and the right amount of energy, right? Because if you're constantly on the back foot, or the following frame, you are in like this passive, unengaged, unmentally stimulated state where you're just being dragged around by your friends, or by the set's just going to die, or the conversation's going to die. You need to be the social epicenter, the energetic epicenter, where you're creating, adding value, providing emotions, and you need to have those emotions inside of you to provide them, right? And so that's where leadership comes in. You have the value in you, and you're going to express it and lead with it, right? Also, a couple other smaller ones, maybe music and dance. So before you go out, consider like, getting your speaker and playing some upbeat, positive, high energy music, and even just like get loose, like start dancing with it, right? That motion and that like priming of your state, and priming of like that party vibe will help kind of like carry that into at least the beginning of the nightclub. It's not gonna make a huge difference as far as like long over the course of the night, but I would say it's like a warm-up song for people doing athletic events. Pump yourself up, right? Music and dance. The last tip I will say is try to be sober as far as alcohol and nicotine, stuff like that. Alcohol is a depressant. It actually lowers your central nervous system. While some guys feel like it makes them more socially confident because they care less maybe, and things are just more numb, at the same time, it lowers your energy and it lowers your ability to bang, make decisions, get things moving, keeping that momentum, right? So avoid alcohol for sure. Also nicotine, right? The Zen craze is really, really big right now. And personally, I feel like there's a really big come down with when you're doing stuff like that. I guess it's classified as a stimulant, but it really does kind of like, if you've ever done it, it kind of makes you calm. And then also in my experience, there's like a notable come down where you feel legitimately just like tired and lethargic. So like that will absolutely kill your state, okay? So those are some tips, guys. I hope they help. We'll see you in the next video.